It's Friday, June 18th, and the time for your Barbados Day morning news update. The controversial resolution to create the new post of Secretary General for President of the National Union of Public Workers, Kenny McDowell, has failed. During a special general conference at the Lloyd Erskine Sandyford Center on Thursday evening, the emotionally charged meeting came to a premature end when the majority of members attending voted against pursuing the resolution. Emmanuel Joseph was there and filed this report.
There were conflicting versions of what exactly took place inside the conference room, as several noisy public workers, along with some visibly upset officials and retired leaders, emerged from the concluded talks with scores of other members still on the outside, having not been able to get in. One of the first NUPW officials to appear from the meeting to waiting reporters was Acting General Secretary Wayne Waldron and his deputy Richard Green. Waldron told journalists that measures will now have to be put in place to ensure what he called this unfortunate situation does not repeat itself.
The meeting went in the direction of not supporting the resolution. It went in that direction because the workers did make a determination that the union must be put first, and therefore anything that seeks to destabilize or harm the union cannot be the workers' agenda. So we are happy that at least we can move forward beyond this and look at making some decisions, the executive and council, and the board membership to ensure that we put the union first and that goes from strength to strength.
The Deputy General Secretary of the Union, Green, who accompanied Waldron at the end of the meeting, sought to bring a greater clarity as to the fate of the resolution.
The movers of the petition and the resolution left the meeting, and the members present did not thought it fit that they should put it to a vote of those members there, whether they should continue to hear the resolution, and the members said no. And it was virtually unanimous. The members said no.
Describing the situation as unfortunate, McDowell said that having taken up the chairman's seat, he later agreed to recuse himself from being presiding officer since he was part of the resolution. He said he explained to those inside that because of the COVID protocols, there were a lot more people on the outside trying to get in, and he asked that they be allowed in so that they could participate in the democratic process.
Then the security guy came to me and said that he was instructed that I be removed from the meeting. I tried to explain to him what the rules of the union says, but of course he was not familiar with the specifics of the rules, and therefore he decided I didn't want to create any trouble. He decided that I remove myself, and then we can deal with the other union matters after.
With the contentious resolution now dead in the water and unlikely to resurface, the union's focus will now be next month's general elections to decide this time on a new executive committee. Emmanuel Joseph for Barbados Today.
Government to assist residents impacted by an overnight freak storm that damaged homes, downed trees, and disrupted utilities across northern and central portions of the island. Prime Minister Mia Mottley gave the undertaking after an all-day tour of the most impacted areas on Thursday. In fact, she revealed that persons have already started receiving materials for the rebuilding of their homes as authorities from the requisite government agencies surveyed the damage.
The reality is that in all of this, we continue now to have to find the means to make sure that our people do not walk alone. This has been a difficult 18 months starting from January 2020, and we all know it, from the pandemic to the ashfall that hit us at the beginning of April, and to this event, which is a freak storm. I think that Mr. Best would have indicated that we had winds as high as 43, 45 kilometers, and clearly those houses where the roofs have not been fully strapped down would therefore have been the most vulnerable, and as I indicated earlier, those on cliff edges without anything to protect them. We will continue to work with the residents and the persons who have been affected. We know that people are still calling in, believe you me, into the DEM. I'm talking about houses, but I can't even begin to paint the picture of the loss of beds, the loss of couches, the loss of everything that people have. And to that extent, therefore, our heart continues to go out to them. But more importantly, I say to them again, having told many of them already myself, you shall not walk alone.
The current restrictions on the entertainment sector are in keeping with best practices outlined by the Ministry of Health and Wellness. Minister in the Prime Minister's office with responsibility for culture, John King, made that position clear in response to concerns raised by promoters and other stakeholders following news of the cancellation of the Cropover Festival, the continued ban on party cruises, and the limiting of land-based events to a maximum of 150 patrons.
The Ministry of Health was clear in the meeting with them, clear, crystal clear, outlined all of the scenarios as to why they come up with these numbers, and that they are not stagnant, but that as things progress, they will try to do more based on the situation. But this was made abundantly clear in meetings. Everything is consistent with health protocols.
The highly anticipated $9 million upgrade of Harrison's Cave is set to begin within the next few weeks. Group Chief Executive Officer of Chukka Caribbean Adventures, Mark Melville, said work will begin in August and should last between 6 to 8 months. Chukka Caribbean Adventures, Jamaica's largest nature adventure tour operator, took over the management of the attraction in December last year under a 25-year lease arrangement.
We opened July 2nd, and because what we're really doing is putting bolt-ons to adding activities to the existing infrastructure. So it'll be scheduled, and we will continue to do, obviously we can't do it all at once because then it would be too much construction. But we will be doing it piece by piece by piece, and there will be maybe some inconvenience from here to there, but nothing we feel that will truly affect the guest experience.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
To news from our regional neighbors now, it's imperative that local, parliamentary and presidential elections take place as scheduled in the fall of this year in Haiti. So says the head of the UN Integrated Office in Haiti, Helen Lalem, who also called on all stakeholders to urgently set aside their differences to tackle the protracted issues facing the country. She made the comments as she addressed the UN Security Council on Thursday.
To ensure that the opportunity of a democratic renewal of Haitian institutions is seized, that the right of every Haitian to live in a peaceful and stable environment is upheld, that each and every citizen of the country has access to justice, social services, and the opportunity of a livelihood, it is imperative that local, parliamentary, as well as presidential elections take place as scheduled in the fall of this year. To that end, all Haitian stakeholders must urgently set aside their differences, eschew their narrow interests, and work together to tackle the protracted political, structural, and social issues that hinder the country's progress.
And finally, drought is on the verge of becoming the next pandemic. That's according to the UN Secretary General's Special Representative for Disaster and Risk Reduction, Mami Misitori, who called for concerted action to tackle the growing global threat.
Within the next 80 years, 129 countries will experience increased exposure to drought due to climate change alone, an additional 23 countries due to population growth, and another 38 due to the interaction of population growth and climate change impact. If you just look at these numbers, yes, there's a really big number of countries that will be exposed to increased drought. So this is a global issue, something like we're seeing as a pandemic. Drought can be the next catastrophe, and there is no vaccine. If we do not act now, our exposure to drought risk threatens to derail our progress towards the achievement of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development.
That's news. But for the very latest, visit us at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook, and sign up for our breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. And you can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM.